from now, and Paul Feinbaum essentially saying, look, this rule isn't 200 years old. It was created back in October, so we can be as flexible as we want. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, straight to Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel. So you would think after Michigan pulled out of the game, their rivalry with Ohio State, they would just say, hey, everybody's on their own. You got to do what you got to do, especially when it comes to your rival. However, this is what Ward said about the possibility of trying to get Ohio State into the Big Ten title game, their arch rival. Quote, Ward Manuel. So I would be open, and I think the conference would be open, to having a discussion about whether or not we will make adjustments, whether or not schedules will be adjusted to get Ohio State to play enough games with 6 or play in the championship with 5. Fellas, it's instructive to note that Barry Alvarez, the Wisconsin athletic director, former member of the playoff committee, essentially said the same thing. We've got to try to find a way to get them in. That word will mean something. Alvarez also said the ADs meet on a weekly basis. This is important. The ADs will make that decision on 6, not the school presidents. The school presidents make the really big decisions like, are we going to play? They make the really big calls. But Alvarez said this will be an AD decision on what to do with the Buckeyes. Again, Key, Heather at 6:40 a.m. Eastern. Jay, it's all about the Benjamins, right? It always comes back to one thing. The bottom line is?
All I'm saying,
the bottom line.
all I'm saying is that they need a team to represent the conference in the college football playoffs.
So you need at least 6 to qualify for the Big Ten title game.
Correct.
But not 6 to qualify for the national championship.
Or the playoff.
Better yet, the playoffs, Final Four.
Correct.
But the scenario would be that if they say for some reason something hypothetically in 2020, which a lot of hypotheticals have happened, say they don't play the Big Ten championship game. Say that they don't qualify, or that they don't say they do qualify and for something happens, COVID purposes, then say if Florida beats Alabama in the SEC championship game, you could have a scenario where Ohio State will get pushed out.
And so here's, and I've been this way from day one, and y'all know this. Based on the number of games that you've played, I feel like if they can't get to 6 or 7 games, they shouldn't be allowed to play in the Final Four. They shouldn't be allowed to play in the Final Four. It's cheating the other teams. And I understand COVID and they had to cancel it. I get all that. But they didn't play enough games. You didn't play enough games. You played 5 games. I played 9. I played 10. You played 5. How could you possibly look at 5 games and say that they're a top 4 team in college football when it's only been 5 games? And out of the 5 games, the only team that, from my eyes, told me that was competitive was maybe Indiana. It's hard for me to sign off on that. I understand the Big Ten wants to be representative. It's nothing, for those that are listening, has nothing to do with the Pac-12. So please, I just feel it in my vibes.
That's where people are going.
Yeah, nothing to do with that. Although SC will have the same amount of games probably played as Ohio State.
Stop. Stay on course.
I am on course. You're messing me up. But if you think about it, though, Z, 5 games versus Alabama, Florida, Texas A&M, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, come on. They deserve that spot. But
now you're faulting them because of their conference, the strength of conference.
No, it's not.
That's what's happening essentially. Hey, the games, you can only play the games in front of you. So now they weren't allowed to play the games. So now they're going to have to suffer the consequences.
Okay, so let me ask you this while I cut you off real quick. Would you let them in if they only play 4 games?
No, if they didn't. I mean, they have to play. I would, but it's. I think when the eye test, we go back to the subjectivity of this. The eye test tells me that they're one of the top teams in the country. It tells me that.
If I had 6 or 7 games or something like that, then I could definitively say that. But when I'm watching only 5 games, and out of the 5 games, you're beating up on Michigan States and Penn States that are very bad. You know, it's just like it's hard for me, and Nebraska. It's just hard for me to say that you are truly one of the top 4 teams based on that.
Here's where it gets interesting for me, Key. Yesterday, I had to host a student-athlete POV conference for the Sports Business Journal, and I got a chance to listen to Kevin Warren afterwards. And he was saying the one thing that we have to maintain during these volatile times is to stay malleable. is to stay malleable down the stretch. Now, it becomes interesting because it could lead to an opportunity for the Big Ten to be a little bit hypocritical. They didn't allow Nebraska to play out of non-conference games, right? But will they allow that opportunity to a school like Ohio State, right? Considering how are we going to get Ohio State to play enough games to be in the right position to make the CFP? If that's, hey, could Ohio State play Texas A&M? Could that be a matchup that we could see?
Now,
or maybe it could be another matchup against Indiana in conference, considering what's happening with Indiana and Purdue, both of them shutting down the facilities, if Indiana is able to go.
Okay, they didn't let Nebraska out of conference, but that was at a different time.
Understand,
right?
but still, what it looks like overall.
But now, as we continue to move the goalposts, because the goalpost is going to continue to keep moving, I would be okay to let them play out of conference. Now, when we first started this whole run on this thing several months ago, we were trying to figure out everything as a conference, so there was no reason for Nebraska, which wasn't a good football team at all and didn't have a chance to be in the playoffs, play a game outside of conference. While we were trying to figure everything out, you want to go off on your own and do your own thing. So we're going to put the kibosh on that. Now we're going to open it up because we do have a opportunity for a team within our conference to play in the championship game as well as in the college football playoffs. And if they go play a Texas A&M or whoever that's available, of course you go and let them play.
No, just the perception, I think, will have people up in a fury about
matter.
it.
This
but
is the best team in our division.
I would love to see Ohio
conference.
State play Texas A&M. Okay, fine. Let's see where you stack up. If you're saying that the best team that they played is Indiana, and you don't think Indiana's that good, even though they're ranked top 20 at the time,
but they're not.
I hear that. All right, so then go play Texas A&M and prove that you belong in the college football playoff.
I'm all for that, 100%.
I would love to see that game.
Or come out west and play USC.
Stop. No, stay on course.
That would be a dream scenario. The last thing I would mention is the ACC and the SEC. The ACC and the SEC played more games because they determined they were going to start their season on September 12th. Part of the reason the Ohio State Buckeyes are in this spot is because the Big Ten decided we're starting our games October 23rd.
Which I'm okay with because
they weren't mandated. The government didn't do it.
And that's why the Big Ten's going to try to make up for that fault right there, Zubin.
And they should.
I agree.
If they can, they should. If they can, they should. But as it stands right now, I got a break. But as it stands right now, with only 5 and no more, I can't sign off on that.
Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. A reminder, the college football playoff semifinals, Ohio State or not, will take place on New Year's Day at the Rose Bowl and at the Sugar Bowl, January 11th, the championship game in Miami. All of those games can be heard on ESPN Radio. On the way, Key says the Keystone State will never be known as Pennsylvania again. He'll explain after Jay has this from Straight Talk.
Zubin worked hard for that one.
Keystone State, Pennsylvania, bro. Come on.
It's time for some straight talk. Look, we all drop our phones. It happens. You fumble it, crack it, splash it. Well, Straight Talk Wireless now offers this new Platinum Unlimited plan that includes phone